The Grand Chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station that orbited the neutral world of Primaxis. Inside, representatives from 40 different alien species sat in their designated seats waiting. The air smelled strange. A mixture of different atmospheres blended together to keep everyone alive. Lights from 1,000 worlds reflected off the polished metal walls. Ambassador Yuna stood near the entrance, her hands clasped behind her back. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her dark eyes scanned the room, looking for any sign of support. She found none. The other ambassadors avoided her gaze, turning away when she looked in their direction. 300 years of peace had made the galaxy soft. That peace had a name, the Valdran Empire. They were tall creatures, nearly 8 feet in height, with dark purple skin that seemed to absorb light. Their eyes glowed a faint red, and when they spoke, their voices rumbled like distant thunder. The Valdran had never lost a war, not one. In 10,000 years of recorded history, they had conquered every enemy they faced. High Marshal Krevath entered the chamber. The massive Valdran commander wore armor that gleamed like polished obsidian. Medals and symbols of countless victories covered his chest. He walked slowly, deliberately, making sure everyone saw him. When he reached the central platform, he did not ask for permission to speak. He simply began. "The Valdran Empire has been patient," Krevath said, his voice filling every corner of the chamber. "For 3 centuries, we have allowed the lesser species to govern themselves. We have protected you. We have kept the peace. And what do we ask in return? Merely your loyalty, your obedience." Yuna felt her jaw tighten. She knew what was coming. "But there are those who refuse our generosity," Krevath continued. "Those who believe they can stand alone. The humans have rejected our ultimatum. They have insulted the Empire. They have chosen war." A murmur spread through the chamber. Several ambassadors glanced at Yuna. She stood perfectly still, refusing to show any emotion. "I call upon this council to vote," Krevath declared. "Will you stand with the Empire? Or will you side with these primitives who barely learned to cross their own star system 50 years ago?" The vote was quick. One by one, the species of the Galactic Council chose to abandon humanity. They feared the Valdran more than they valued any principle of justice or fairness. When the final count was displayed, it was unanimous. Humanity would face the Empire alone. Yuna stepped forward. "May I speak, High Marshal?" Krevath looked down at her, amusement in his glowing eyes. "The human wishes to beg? Very well. Entertain us." "When I do not beg," Yuna said clearly. "I simply want to understand. You claim to have mastered warfare. You say you have studied combat for 10,000 years. But tell me, when was the last time you actually fought a war? Not a skirmish, not a border dispute, a real war where your survival was at stake?" The chamber went silent. Krevath's expression darkened. "You dare question the might of the Valdran Empire?" "I question whether you remember what war truly is," Yuna replied. "You have fought for glory, for honor, for territory. But humans, we fought to survive. Every war we ever waged on our home world was about existence itself. We did not have the luxury of honor. We learned to do whatever it took to win." Krevath laughed. It was a deep, mocking sound. "Your species killed each other with chemical weapons, with nuclear fire. You poisoned your own planet. And you think this makes you strong? It makes you savages. Barbarians with stolen technology. When the Valdran Armada arrives at your world, you will learn the difference between your crude violence and true military excellence." Yuna smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then I suppose we will see, High Marshal. But I will offer you one warning. We are not like the other species you have conquered. We do not surrender. We do not submit. And we will show you what humans do when backed into a corner." "Threats from a dying race," Krevath said dismissively. He turned to address the council. "When the human worlds are burning, remember this moment. Remember that the Valdran Empire offered mercy and they rejected it. Their fate is their own choice." The session ended. Ambassadors filed out quickly, not wanting to be associated with the losing side. Yuna remained standing on the chamber floor for a long moment. Then she walked to a private communication booth and activated the encrypted channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador Yuna," she said quietly. "The council has voted. We stand alone. The Valdran are coming. God help us all." Across the galaxy and Earth's solar system, the message was received. Admiral Minho read it 3 times before setting down the datapad. He stood in the command center of fleet headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of every human ship in space. There were not many. Humanity was new to the stars. They had 30 warships in total. The Valdren had thousands. Minho was 52 years old. He had gray hair and a face marked by years of hard decisions. He had fought in the colony wars, the brutal conflicts between Earth's corporate factions that had nearly destroyed humanity's first attempts at space expansion. He knew what war looked like, real war, ugly war. "Get me Commander Dae-hyun," Minho said to his aide. 10 minutes later, a hologram appeared. Dae-hyun was 38, tall and lean with sharp features and calculating eyes. He had spent the last 5 years commanding patrol vessels on the Outer Rim. He was good at his job. More importantly, he was creative. He did not follow the rulebook when the situation demanded something else. "Commander," Minho said, "I am giving you command of the Indomitable. You will take her to the frontier and await further orders." Dae-hyun's eyes widened slightly. The Indomitable was humanity's newest warship. She was experimental, built with lessons learned from centuries of human conflict. She was not the biggest ship, not the most heavily armed, but she was fast, adaptable, and equipped with systems that no alien race had ever encountered. "Sir, with respect, one ship against the Valdren Empire. One ship that they will not expect," Minho replied. "The Valdren think they know war. They study it like an art form. They have rules, traditions, honor codes, but we know something they do not. War is not an art, it is survival, and humans are very, very good at surviving." Dae-hyun nodded slowly. Understanding dawned on his face. "When do I leave?" "Immediately. And, Commander, make them remember why they should have feared us." The hologram disappeared. Minho turned back to the displays. Somewhere out there, the Valdren Armada was gathering. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of warriors who had never known defeat. They were coming to crush humanity, to teach the galaxy a lesson about challenging the Empire. But Minho had lived through the colony wars. He had seen what humans did when their backs were against the wall. The Valdren were about to learn a very old lesson. The most dangerous animal is the one with nothing left to lose. He touched a button on his console. "All fleet commanders, begin Operation Blackout." "Let them come. We will show them what war really means." Above Earth, the Indomitable powered up her engines. Commander Dae-hyun sat in the captain's chair, watching the planet fall away below. Somewhere in the darkness, an enemy was coming, an enemy that claimed to have mastered warfare. He smiled grimly. They were about to meet someone who had been forged by it. The Indomitable moved through the darkness like a silver ghost. Inside the ship, Commander Dae-hyun walked the corridors, observing his crew. They were young, most of them, trained in academies that had only existed for 20 years. They had studied the tactics of old Earth wars, naval battles from oceans of water, tank warfare across deserts, air combat in atmospheres, but they had never faced real combat in space. Lieutenant Hana stood on the bridge reviewing tactical displays. She was 29, brilliant with numbers and strategy. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight regulation style. When Dae-hyun approached, she straightened. "Commander, the weapon systems are ready. All stations report green status." "Good," Dae-hyun said. "What do we know about Valdren tactics?" "They favor overwhelming force," Hana replied, pulling up holographic images. "Their standard attack formation uses 3 battle groups. They advance in a wedge pattern, trying to intimidate enemies into surrender before the first shot is fired. Their ships are heavily armored but slow to maneuver. They rely on their reputation as much as their firepower." Dae-hyun studied the formations. They were beautiful in a way. Geometric perfection. The kind of tactics you developed when you had 10,000 years and never lost. "What about their command structure?" "Completely hierarchical," Hana said. "Orders flow from the top down. Ship captains wait for commands from fleet commanders. Individual initiative is considered dishonorable." A slow smile crossed Dae-hyun's face. "They have rules, extensive rules, sir. There are entire volumes about proper conduct in battle, what targets are legitimate, how to treat defeated enemies, when to offer terms of surrender. And if someone does not follow those rules?" Hana met his eyes. She understood. Then they would not know how to respond. The door to the bridge opened and Engineer Jihoon entered. He was 41, stocky and brilliant with oil stains permanently embedded under his fingernails. He had worked on fusion reactors, quantum drives, and weapon systems that made traditional military officers nervous. Ji-hoon did not believe in doing things the conventional way. "Commander, I finished the modifications you requested," Ji-hoon said, grinning. "The Valdren are going to hate what I have built." "Show me," Dae-hyun ordered. They moved to the engineering bay. Ji-hoon pulled up schematics on a large display. Standard Valdren sensors look for engine signatures, hull composition, and energy output. So I created these. The display showed small drone vessels, each about the size of a fighter craft. "Ghost ships," Ji-hoon explained. "They mimic the Indomitable's signature perfectly. To enemy sensors, each one looks like a full-sized warship. We can deploy 20 of them. They will think they are facing 21 ships instead of one," Hana said, amazement in her voice. "Exactly," Ji-hoon confirmed. "But that is not all. I also installed psychological warfare systems, broadcasting equipment that can override enemy communications, visual projections that can make us appear damaged when we are not, or invisible when we are right in front of them." Dae-hyun felt something rare. Hope. "Can you tie it all into our tactical network?" "Already done. Lieutenant Hana can control everything from the bridge." Another person entered the bay. Dr. Somin was 34, an expert in alien psychology and culture. She had spent years studying the species of the galaxy, trying to understand how they thought. She carried a datapad filled with research. "Commander, I have been analyzing Valdren military history," Somin said. "They are predictable. Every battle they have fought in the last 1,000 years follows the same pattern. They issue a challenge. They display their forces. They offer terms. If the terms are refused, they attack in formation. The battle lasts until the enemy surrenders or is destroyed. They perform war," Dae-hyun said quietly. "Like a ritual, exactly. And that is their weakness. They have never faced an opponent who refuses to play by the rules, someone who attacks from unexpected angles, who targets supply lines instead of warships, who makes them afraid." Dae-hyun gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. On the wall, a map showed the frontier systems. Intelligence indicated the Valdren were gathering forces near the Corvus system, a small human colony of 10,000 people. "They will hit Corvus first," Dae-hyun said. "To make an example, to show the galaxy what happens when you defy the Empire. We cannot protect them with one ship," Hana said carefully. "The Valdren will send multiple vessels." "We will not protect them the traditional way," Dae-hyun replied. "We are going to change the rules of the game." He outlined his plan. It was dangerous, possibly insane. It violated every principle of conventional naval warfare. When he finished, the room was silent. Finally, Ji-hoon laughed. "They are going to be so angry." "They are going to be terrified," Dr. Somin corrected. "Fear is the mind killer, and the Valdren have never experienced it in battle." The Indomitable jumped to faster than light speed. The journey to Corvus took 3 days. During that time, the crew prepared. They ran simulations. They practiced coordination between the ghost ships and real weapon systems. They studied Valdren doctrine until they could predict every move. Lieutenant Hana drilled her tactical team until they could execute complex maneuvers without conscious thought. Ji-hoon and his engineers worked around the clock, fine-tuning systems. Dr. Somin briefed everyone on Valdren psychology, teaching them how to exploit cultural blind spots. Commander Dae-hyun spent his nights in his quarters, staring at historical records. He watched footage of ancient Earth wars, the guerrilla tactics of resistance fighters, the asymmetric warfare of weaker nations against stronger ones, the brutal pragmatism of people fighting for survival. Humanity had a gift, he realized. They had learned to win against impossible odds because they had to. The Valdren had never needed to. On the 3rd day, they dropped out of faster than light at the edge of the Corvus system. The sensors immediately lit up. 3 Valdren battle cruisers orbited the colony world. Each was twice the size of the Indomitable. They sat in perfect formation, engines glowing, weapons charged. On the planet below, the colonists huddled in shelters. Their leader, Captain Bora, had sent out desperate distress calls for 2 days. No one had answered. The galaxy had abandoned them, until now. Receiving transmission from the Valdren flagship, the communications officer reported. "They are demanding we identify ourselves." Dae-hyun settled into his command chair. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." The view screen activated. A Valdren commander appeared. War Master Threxus. His armor was blood red, decorated with the symbols of 50 conquered worlds. His eyes burned with the confidence of inevitable victory. Human vessel, you are outmatched. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Surrender now, and your death will be honorable. Daehyun leaned forward. War Master Threxus, I am Commander Daehyun of the human warship Indomitable. You have blockaded a human colony. You have threatened innocent civilians. You have claimed to master the art of war. We have mastered it, Threxus replied, contempt in his voice. For 10,000 years the Valdren have been supreme. You are children playing with weapons you do not understand. Then let me teach you something, Daehyun said softly. War is not an art. It is not about honor or glory. War is about survival, and humans have been surviving against impossible odds since before your empire existed. You claim to master war. Let me show you what war truly is. He made a gesture. Lieutenant Hana's fingers flew across her console. Around the Indomitable, 20 ghost ships shimmered into existence. To Valdren sensors, it looked like a human fleet had just appeared from nowhere. War Master Threxus's expression changed. For the first time in his long career, he felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. All ships, Daehyun ordered calmly. Battle stations. Engage at will. The Indomitable dove toward the Valdren formation, and behind her, 20 ghost ships followed like a pack of wolves. The battle for Corvus had begun, and the Valdren were about to learn a lesson that humanity had known for centuries. The most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. The Valdren battlecruisers moved into their traditional attack formation. War Master Threxus watched his tactical display with growing confusion. 21 human ships surrounded his 3 vessels. It made no sense. Intelligence reported that humans had only 30 warships in total. Why would they commit such a large force to defend a minor colony? All ships advance, Threxus commanded. Maintain wedge formation. We will crush them with superior firepower. The 3 Valdren vessels moved forward in perfect synchronization, their weapons charged, energy readings climbing. They expected the human ships to either flee or form a defensive line. They did neither. Instead, the Indomitable and her ghost ships scattered in every direction. They broke apart like a school of fish evading a predator. Within seconds, they had surrounded the Valdren formation completely. What are they doing? Threxus demanded. This is chaos. There is no formation. No strategy. His tactical officer studied the sensors. War Master, they are moving too fast. Our targeting systems cannot lock on. They refuse to hold position. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant Hana coordinated the attack with cold precision. Ghost ships 3 through 7 make attack runs on the port side of the lead cruiser. Draw their fire. Real weapons target their engine cooling systems on the starboard side. The ghost ships dove toward the Valdren flagship. Threxus ordered his gunners to open fire. Plasma bolts and missile volleys streaked through space, destroying 4 of the ghost ships in brilliant explosions. But while the Valdren guns were pointed to port, the Indomitable came from starboard, flying low and fast. Engineer Jihoon had planned this moment carefully. Firing railguns, targeting cooling ports. Solid tungsten rounds, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through the Valdren ship's armor. They were too small to cause critical damage, but they struck the exposed cooling systems. Immediately, alarms blared on the Valdren flagship. 3 main plasma cannons overheated and shut down automatically. Impossible, Threxus snarled. They targeted our cooling systems? That is not how ship combat works. You destroy the hull. You breach the reactor. You do not shoot at cooling ports. War Master, his tactical officer said nervously. The humans are not following standard combat doctrine. They are targeting subsystems, life support relays, communication arrays. They are trying to disable us, not destroy us. The Indomitable vanished into a debris field from an old mining operation. The Valdren sensors lost track of it completely. Then 3 more ghost ships appeared, attacking from a different angle. The second Valdren battlecruiser turned to engage them, separating from the formation. No, Threxus shouted. Maintain formation. Do not break ranks. But it was too late. The moment the second cruiser separated, the Indomitable emerged from the debris field behind it. Lieutenant Hana fired a spread of electromagnetic pulse missiles. They detonated across the cruiser's aft section, temporarily disrupting its shield generators. In that moment of vulnerability, the Indomitable's main guns fired. Not at the hull, not at the weapons, at the communication relay tower. The structure exploded in a shower of metal fragments. Instantly, the second cruiser went silent, unable to receive orders or coordinate with the fleet. Commander Daehyun watched the chaos unfolding. Dr. Soman, initiate psychological warfare protocol. Soman activated the broadcasting equipment. Across all Valdrin communication frequencies, sounds began to play. Screaming metal. Explosions. Distress calls in Valdrin language shouting about hull breaches and casualties. None of it was real, but the Valdrin crews heard their comrades dying and believed it was happening. They are breaking formation, Hana reported. The third cruiser is attempting to retreat. Let it go, Daehyun ordered. Focus on the flagship. Ji-hoon, deploy the visual projections. Around the Valdrin flagship, holographic images appeared. They showed the Indomitable in multiple positions at once, each one targeting different sections of the ship. Threxus could not tell which were real. His gunners fired at shadows while the actual warship circled behind them. The Indomitable used the asteroid field like a hunter uses forest cover. She darted between rocks, disappeared behind large fragments, reappeared at unexpected angles. Every time the Valdrin thought they had her targeted, she was already somewhere else. This is not warfare, Threxus shouted in frustration. This is cowardice. Where is the honor? Where is the courage to face us directly? Commander Daehyun heard the transmission. He opened a channel. Honor? You talk to me about honor while blockading civilians? Let me tell you something about courage, War Master. Real courage is not standing in formation waiting to be shot. Real courage is doing whatever it takes to protect your people. And right now my people need you gone. He nodded to Hana. She had been waiting for this moment. The ghost ships, the ones still active, all converged on the flagship at once. They came from 6 different directions. Threxus ordered his gunners to destroy them all. The Valdrin weapons fired in every direction, creating a deadly crossfire around their own ship. That was when the Indomitable struck. She came from below, where the Valdrin had not positioned any guns because tradition held that ships always attacked on a level plane. Daehyun had studied their culture. He knew their blind spots. The main railgun fired at point-blank range. The tungsten round, moving at incredible speed, punched straight through the flagship's reactor shielding. It did not destroy the reactor. That would have killed everyone on board. Instead, it damaged the containment field just enough to force an emergency shutdown. The Valdrin flagship went dark. Life support switched to backups. Weapons went offline. Engines died. The massive warship became a drifting metal coffin. Target the second cruiser, Daehyun ordered. Same tactics, but the second cruiser had seen enough. Its captain, unable to communicate with the flagship, made a decision that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. He activated his engines and fled. The third cruiser, seeing this, followed immediately. 2 Valdrin battle cruisers, veterans of 100 conquests, ran from a single human warship. On the planet below, Captain Bora and the colonists watched through their sensors. They could not believe what they were seeing. The mighty Valdrin Empire, defeated by tricks and tactics that defied every rule of civilized warfare. The Indomitable moved alongside the drifting flagship. Commander Daehyun opened a channel to War Master Threxus. The Valdrin commander's face appeared on screen. He looked shocked, disbelieving. You cheated, Threxus said. You did not fight with honor. We fought to win, Daehyun replied simply. That is what war is. Not ceremony. Not tradition, survival. You studied warfare for 10,000 years. We lived it for 10,000 years. Every day on Earth was a fight to survive. Against each other. Against nature. Against extinction. Do you know what that teaches you, War Master? It teaches you that rules are for people who can afford to lose. He leaned forward in his chair. Here is what happens next. You will repair your ship. You will return to your empire, and you will tell them what happened here. Tell them that one human ship defeated 3 of their finest vessels. Tell them that if they come for us, we will not stand in formation. We will not offer them honorable combat. We will hit them from the shadows. We will target their weaknesses. We will make them afraid to close their eyes at night. Threxus said nothing. The channel closed, the Indomitable turned toward the planet. Commander Daehyun allowed himself a moment of relief. They had won. Against impossible odds, using every dirty trick and unconventional tactic they could devise, they had won. Lieutenant Hana approached his chair. Commander, we lost 6 ghost ships. Minor damage to the aft plating. But the crew is intact. No casualties. And them? Daehyun asked. The flagship is crippled, but the crew is alive. The other 2 cruisers are running for Valdrin space. Ji-hoon's voice came over the intercom. Commander, I have to tell you, That was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. We just rewrote the rules of space combat. Dr. Somin appeared on the bridge. Her face was pale. Commander, you realize what we have done? We have humiliated the Valdrin Empire. They will not forgive this. They will come back with everything they have. Daehyun nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. Yes, they will. But now the galaxy knows something important. The Valdrin can be beaten, and more importantly, they know that humans do not fight like anyone else. Fear is a powerful weapon, Doctor, and right now the Valdrin are afraid. On the planet, Captain Bora sent a message to Earth. The human warship Indomitable has saved Corvus. They defeated 3 Valdrin battlecruisers. I do not know how. I do not understand their tactics, but they won. The message spread across human space in hours. To the colonies, it brought hope. To Earth's military commanders, it brought a new understanding. Humanity did not need to match the Valdrin ship for ship. They just needed to fight like humans. But in the depths of Valdrin space, in the throne room of their empire, High Marshal Krevath received the report of the defeat at Corvus. His glowing red eyes burned with rage. He crushed the datapad in his hand. "One ship," he whispered. "One human ship has made fools of us." He turned to his subordinates. "Assemble the Grand Fleet. 30 warships. Every vessel we can spare. We will find this Indomitable. We will destroy it, and we will burn every human world to ash." News of the Corvus battle reached every corner of the galaxy within days. The species of the Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as reports came in. 3 Valdrin battlecruisers defeated by a single human warship. It seemed impossible. The Valdrin had ruled through fear and military superiority for centuries. Now that image was cracked. Ambassador Yuna stood before the council again. This time, the other ambassadors looked at her differently. Not with pity or dismissal. With something else, respect, perhaps fear. "The humans have proven they can defend themselves," she said calmly. "We ask again for the council's support." But before anyone could respond, the chamber's main display activated. High Marshal Krevath appeared, his image towering over them all. His expression was cold fury. "Members of the council," Krevath began, his voice like ice. "The Valdrin Empire has been insulted. Our honor has been stained by human treachery. This will not stand." He gestured, and tactical displays appeared showing a massive fleet. 30 Valdrin warships assembled in formation. It was the largest battle group the Empire had deployed in over 100 years. "I will personally lead this armada to crush the human infestation," Krevath continued. "The ship called Indomitable, and its coward commander will be destroyed. Every human colony will burn, and the galaxy will remember that none defy the Valdrin Empire and survive." The transmission ended. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. 30 warships. The entire human fleet only had 30 vessels, most of them smaller patrol craft. The Indomitable was alone out there, and now it had the attention of an entire empire's wrath. In Earth's fleet headquarters, Admiral Minho received the intelligence reports. He studied the tactical displays, his expression grim. 30 Valdrin warships hunting one of his ships. He wanted to send reinforcements, but he knew that would be suicide. The Valdrin would destroy any fleet humanity could assemble. "Get me Commander Daehyun," Minho ordered. "Priority channel." Across the void of space on the Indomitable, the message came through. Commander Daehyun listened to Admiral Minho's briefing, his face expressionless. Lieutenant Hana stood beside him, growing pale as the numbers sank in. 30-1, Commander," Minho said quietly. "I cannot order you to face this. It would be a suicide mission. I am giving you the option to return to Earth. No shame in it. You have already done more than anyone expected." Daehyun was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "With respect, sir, if I run, they will just follow me back to Earth. This has to end here. Besides, we proved something at Corvus. The Valdrin can be beaten, but I will need intelligence." "What kind of intelligence?" "Everything. How their fleet command structure works. Who makes decisions. Where the weaknesses are in their coordination. And I need to know where they are gathering." Admiral Minho smiled grimly. "I will get you what you can." "God help you, Commander." The channel closed. Daehyun turned to find his senior officers gathered on the bridge. They had all heard the transmission. Engineer Jihoon looked troubled. Dr. Somin was calculating something on her datapad. Lieutenant Hana simply waited for orders. 30 ships, Jihoon said slowly. "Our ghost ship trick will not work on a fleet that size. They will see through it. Then we need a new trick, Daehyun replied. He looked at Dr. Sumin. Doctor, you studied Valdrin culture. How does their command structure work in large fleet operations? Somin pulled up files on the main display. Completely centralized. The High Marshal commands the entire fleet. His orders go to sector commanders, who pass them to individual ship captains. It is efficient against traditional enemies, but it has a critical weakness, which is, if you remove the High Marshal from command, the entire fleet falls into chaos. Valdrin captains are trained to follow orders, not make independent decisions. Without leadership, they will not know what to do. Daehyun studied the information. An idea was forming, dangerous and desperate. What if we could isolate the command ship? Separate it from the fleet? Lieutenant Hana understood immediately. You want to bait them. Draw Krivath away from his support. More than that, Daehyun said. I want to create conditions where his fleet cannot help him even if they want to. Can we do that? Tactical Analyst Hyuk, the intelligence officer, spoke up. He was 31, quiet and methodical. Commander, I have been studying the Valdrin Fleet Assembly Point. They are gathering near the nebula of Kalros. A nebula? Jihoon's eyes lit up. Sensors do not work well in nebulas. Communications get disrupted. Exactly, Hyuk confirmed. The nebula of Kalros is massive. Dense ion clouds, electromagnetic interference, and unpredictable energy fields. It is navigable but difficult. The Valdrin are staging outside it because they know we might use it as a hiding spot. Dr. Soman nodded slowly. If you could lure them inside the nebula, their command structure would break down. They could not coordinate. Individual ships would be isolated. And Krivath's pride would not let him refuse a direct challenge, Daehyun added. Especially from the commander who humiliated his forces at Corvus. A plan began to take shape. It was insane. It required perfect timing, incredible luck, and a willingness to sacrifice everything. But it was the only chance they had. Over the next week, the Indomitable prepared. Engineer Jihoon worked miracles installing new systems and weapons. He created deployable minefields that could be activated remotely. He rigged the ship's reactor to produce a massive quantum burst, a one-time weapon that would cripple everything within a large radius, including the Indomitable itself. This will burn out half our systems, Jihoon warned. We will be dead in space after we use it. Then we better make it count, Daehyun replied. Lieutenant Hana drilled the crew relentlessly. They practiced flying blind through simulated nebula conditions. They learned to fight without long-range sensors. They memorized emergency procedures for every possible system failure. Dr. Somin prepared psychological warfare materials specifically designed to break Valdrin morale. Messages about shame and dishonor. Fake communications suggesting that Krivath's own subordinates questioned his leadership. Anything to create doubt and fear. Meanwhile, tactical analyst Hyuk received intelligence from a surprising source. Ambassador Yuna, still working behind the scenes, had managed to infiltrate Valdrin communication networks. She sent encrypted data about their fleet movements, command protocols, and even the layout of Krivath's flagship. They are moving toward the frontier, Hyuk reported. 30 warships in perfect formation. Krivath is aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. They expect to find us near Corvus. Send them a message, Daehyun ordered. Direct to Krivath. Personal channel. The message was brief and calculated to enrage. High Marshal Krivath, this is Commander Daehyun of the Indomitable. You claim to be the greatest warrior in the galaxy, but you hide behind 30 ships. I challenge you. One ship to one ship, prove your superiority if you dare. Or admit that the Valdrin Empire fears a single human vessel. I will be waiting at the edge of the Kalros Nebula. Come alone or do not come at all. The response came 6 hours later. Krivath's face filled the view screen, twisted with rage. Human filth. You dare question my courage? I will crush you personally, and after I tear your ship apart, I will ensure every member of your crew dies slowly. You have made a mistake challenging me. Then come and prove it, Daehyun replied calmly. Unless you are afraid? The channel went dead. Lieutenant Hana looked at her commander. He will never come alone. He will bring the entire fleet. I know, Daehyun said, but his pride will make him lead from the front. And once we get him inside the nebula, his fleet will not be able to help him. The Indomitable moved toward the Kalros Nebula, a vast cloud of purple and blue energy that stretched for millions of kilometers. Behind them, the Valdrin Armada approached. 30 warships carrying enough firepower to devastate planets, all of them hunting one vessel. On Earth, Admiral Minho watched the tracking data. He knew what Daehyun was planning. It was brilliant and suicidal in equal measure. "Good luck, Commander," he whispered. The Indomitable reached the nebula's edge and powered down to minimal systems. Inside, the crew waited. They could see the Valdrin fleet approaching on long-range sensors. The massive formation filled the view screen, an overwhelming display of military might. High Marshal Cravath stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. He saw the human ship waiting at the nebula's edge, seemingly vulnerable. His tactical officers warned him about the dangers of fighting inside the energy cloud, but he dismissed them. "The human is cornered," Cravath declared. "He thinks the nebula will protect him. It will only delay his death. All ships advance. We will pursue him into the cloud and destroy him there." The Valdrin armada moved forward. As they entered the nebula, visibility dropped. Sensors became unreliable. Communication between ships grew difficult. But Cravath pressed forward, his eyes fixed on the fleeing human vessel ahead. He did not realize he was being led into a carefully prepared trap. The Indomitable drew him deeper into the nebula, away from his fleet. Behind them, Lieutenant Hana activated the first minefield. Explosions blossomed in the purple clouds, separating the lead ships from their support. The hunt had become an ambush. And this time, Commander Daehyun was not running. He was preparing to strike at the heart of the Valdrin Empire. Inside the Kalros Nebula, the Valdrin armada fell into disarray. The purple clouds interfered with their sensors. Ships lost track of each other in the swirling energy fields. High Marshal Cravath's orders became garbled and delayed as electromagnetic interference disrupted communications. The perfect formation they had maintained for centuries broke apart. "All ships maintain pursuit," Cravath commanded, but only half the fleet received the transmission. The others continued blindly, trying to follow the vessel ahead of them, unaware that it might not be the Indomitable, but one of their own ships. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant Hana watched the chaos unfold on her tactical display. "They are separating. The fleet is breaking into smaller groups." "Good," Commander Daehyun said. "Activate Minefield 2. Target their propulsion systems." Hidden throughout the nebula, dozens of proximity mines awakened. They did not explode randomly. Each one was programmed to target engines and maneuvering thrusters. As Valdrin ships passed, the mines struck with precision. Not enough to destroy the vessels, but enough to cripple them. 3 Valdrin cruisers found themselves dead in space, engines offline, unable to maneuver. Their crews worked frantically to restore power, while the nebula's energy fields masked their distress signals. They were alive but isolated, cut off from the fleet. High Marshal Cravath realized too late what was happening. "Pull back! Reform outside the nebula!" But his orders could not reach most of the fleet. The ships that did receive the command tried to retreat, only to run into more minefields. Explosions lit up the purple clouds. Valdrin vessels collided with each other in the confusion. "This is dishonorable," Cravath snarled. "The human uses coward tactics. No formations. No direct engagement." "War Master," his tactical officer said urgently. "We have lost contact with 17 ships. 9 more report critical damage. We cannot maintain fleet cohesion in these conditions." "Then we kill the human ship and end this," Cravath decided. "Target the Indomitable. All weapons. Fire at will." The Eternal Dominion's massive guns charged and fired. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through the nebula. But the Indomitable was no longer where their sensors showed. Dr. Soman had activated the visual projection systems, creating multiple false images. The Valdrin weapons struck shadows and empty space. The real Indomitable circled behind the flagship like a predator stalking prey. Engineer Ji-hoon monitored the quantum burst weapon. "Commander, the weapon is ready, but I need to warn you again. When we fire this, we will be as crippled as they are." "I know," Daehyun said quietly. "Hana, get us into position, right next to their flagship. Point-blank range." The Indomitable used the nebula's dense clouds as cover, approaching the Eternal Dominion from below and behind, the exact angles Valdrin tradition considered dishonorable to attack from. As they closed the distance, tactical analyst Hayek used Ambassador Yuna's intelligence data to target the flagship's specific weak points. "Commander," Hayek reported, "their reactor shielding has a vulnerable junction point on the starboard aft section. If we hit it precisely, we can force a complete shutdown without destroying the ship." "Without killing the crew," Dr. Samin added. "That matters, Commander. We are not monsters. We are defenders," Daehyun nodded. Despite everything, despite the impossible odds and the brutality of combat, humanity still tried to minimize casualties. That was the difference between them and those who fought only for glory. The Indomitable emerged from the purple clouds less than a kilometer from the Eternal Dominion. So close that both crews could see each other through the viewports. High Marshal Krevath's eyes widened in shock. How had they gotten so close without being detected? "Now, Jihoon," Daehyun ordered. "Fire everything." The quantum burst weapon discharged. It was not an explosion but a wave of energy that disrupted every electronic system in its radius. The Eternal Dominion's shields collapsed. Its weapons went offline. Navigation systems failed. Life support switched to emergency backups. The massive flagship pride of the Valdran Empire became a drifting hulk in seconds. But the weapon's effect was mutual. The Indomitable systems shut down as well. Lights flickered and died. Engines went cold. The ship coasted on momentum alone, powerless. On both bridges, emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Commander Daehyun and High Marshal Krevath stared at each other across the void, two commanders whose ships were now equally helpless. "Lieutenant Hana," Daehyun said calmly, "broadcast on all frequencies. Make sure every Valdran ship hears this." Hana used the emergency communication systems, which still functioned at minimal capacity. "All Valdran vessels, this is the human warship Indomitable. Your flagship is disabled. Your High Marshal is alive but cannot command you. Your fleet is scattered throughout the nebula. You have a choice. You can continue fighting and risk destroying your own ships in the confusion. Or you can withdraw and regroup. We have proven our point. The war can end here." Silence filled the comm channels. Then slowly Valdran ships began to respond. Not to agree, but to ask for orders. They were lost without central command. Some wanted to attack. Others wanted to retreat. But none of them could coordinate. In that moment of confusion, something unexpected happened. A Valdran captain, commander of one of the isolated cruisers, made an independent decision. He ordered his ship to withdraw from the nebula. It was a violation of protocol. It was dishonorable by Valdran standards, but he did it anyway because it was the logical choice. Other captains saw this and made their own decisions. One by one, Valdran ships began to retreat, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose survival over honor. High Marshal Krevath watched his fleet abandon the battle. He opened a communication channel to the Indomitable, his voice filled with disbelief. "You have destroyed us, not through superior firepower, not through greater numbers, but by forcing us to think like individuals instead of soldiers. You have corrupted the very foundation of our military doctrine. We showed you what happens when rules are more important than survival." Daehyun replied, "Your empire ruled through fear and overwhelming force. But you never fought anyone who was willing to break every rule to protect their people. That was your weakness, and what happens now?" Krevath asked, sounding almost curious. "Now we both drift here until our engineers restore power," Daehyun said. "And then you return to your empire and tell them the truth. Humanity will not be conquered. We will not surrender. If you come for us again, we will fight with every dirty trick, every unconventional tactic, every desperate strategy we can devise. We do not have your honor. We do not have your traditions. But we have something more powerful. We have the will to survive." Engineer Jihoon and his crew worked frantically to restore the Indomitable's basic systems. It took 6 hours, but eventually, life support stabilized, engines restarted, and communications came back online. The Eternal Dominion took longer, their more complex systems requiring extensive repairs. The scattered Valdran fleet regrouped outside the nebula. They had lost no ships to combat, but their pride was shattered. For the first time in their recorded history, they had been outmaneuvered and outthought. The invincible armada had been defeated by strategy and adaptation. 3 months later, Ambassador Yuna stood before the Galactic Council again. This time the chamber was silent with respect. The news of the Kalros Nebula battle had reached every corner of the galaxy. The Valdran Empire, humbled, had sent a representative to discuss peace terms. Regent Thalvor, the new Valdran leader, stood before the assembled species. High Marshal Krevath had been stripped of rank after the disaster. Thalvor was younger, more pragmatic, willing to accept reality. "The Valdran Empire acknowledges the sovereignty of humanity," Thalvor said formally. "We studied war for 10,000 years, but we realize now that we studied only one kind of war. The war of honor and ceremony. The humans know a different war, the war of survival. And in that arena, they are our superiors. Yuna addressed the council. Humanity does not seek dominance. We do not wish to conquer or rule. We simply want to be left in peace. But let this be understood by all. If threatened, we will defend ourselves with every resource we possess. We learned long ago that survival requires more than strength. It requires adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever is necessary. The council voted, unanimously this time. Humanity was welcomed as a full member, with all rights and protections. Several species requested military alliances, wanting to learn human tactics. Others requested trade agreements, seeing humanity as a valuable partner on Earth. Commander Dae-hyun stood in a ceremony hall, receiving the fleet's highest honor. Admiral Minho pinned the medal to his uniform. You changed the galaxy, Commander. One ship against an empire and you won. I had a good crew, Dae-hyun replied. And we fought for something worth fighting for. Lieutenant Hana, promoted to captain and given command of a new vessel, stood beside him. Engineer Ji-hoon had been granted whatever resources he needed to develop new technologies. Dr. Soman's research on alien psychology became required. Reading at every military academy, the Indomitable was decommissioned and placed in Earth's orbital museum. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see the small warship that had defeated an empire. School children studied its tactics. Military strategists analyzed its battles.